Honestly, I think like you need to plaster that story everywhere on social
Right?
media
Isn't it a
about
beautiful story?
that's
Man,
awesome. I mean, that
yeah.
gives hope to so many people. Are you interested in career in medical sales? I have a great interview for you. I just spoke with Samuel Adeyinka. He is a medical sales expert, previously working in medical sales, and now he consults in helping people find medical sales jobs, as well as having a medical sales podcast. I hope you find this interview helpful and insightful. So the first question I have for you, Samuel, is tell me about yourself and how you got into medical sales and what you're currently doing.
Yeah, so I started in pharma, and you know, I have a kind of common track. I was in a biomed program at UC Riverside, and I initially wanted to be a physician. I want to be a doctor, and I got to shadow doctors through that program, and I kind of learned that I didn't really want to be a doctor, but I didn't want to stop studying medicine. I loved science, and I took, of course, all science courses. It was pretty much about an amped up biology degree, and then I graduated and I started working for a lab, and I was actually doing live testing at this lab. So think of mice and actual clinical trials utilizing mice. And I was working for a scientist, and we were working on a diuretic. And I knew that for now this was fine, but I did not want to spend the rest of my days in the lab. So I didn't want to get a PhD. I knew I didn't want to practice bedside, and I didn't know what else was out there. And I remember sharing with him, and he said, you should really look into medical sales. And I said, well, what's that? He said, you should look into pharmaceutical sales to kick it off. And I looked into it. He said, you have the personality for it, you have the background for it, and I think you'd really enjoy it. And I learned that it's the business side of medicine. So I applied to, at the time, now remember, this is all the ignorance. I'm going to showcase all my ignorance right now. At the time, I had applied to T-Mobile and GlaxoSmithKline. And I thought that, I thought those jobs were equal because at T-Mobile, I'm hearing these guys were making $7,000 a month, which was just big money when you're, 20, 23 years old and you're
Yeah.
just out of school and you've been working for a lab making an hourly wage. And then I learned about GSK, where you have this real career. And I got both of the positions. And I remember the hiring manager said, congratulations, we want to take you on the team. And I said, I got to think about it because I also got an offer from T-Mobile. So the next day, I let her know that I did want to take the job, and of course, I got into pharmaceutical sales. I was it was natural to me. I did very well. My very first year, I was 2% performance in the country, and I knew that this is where I wanted to be, and the rest is history. So I was in the medical sales space, specifically pharmaceutical. Ultimately, I went into biotech, and then somewhere in the middle of that, I had a life occurrence. And just to be specific, I got divorced, and it really set me back personally to the point where it affected me professionally, and I did not know how to get back on my feet. And I found Tony Robbins, and I found these self-help groups that at the time people were really gravitating to. So this is back in maybe 2010, 2011, 2012.
Okay.
And I actually went to go join one of these self-help groups, and we did this self-help work, and it changed my life. And I got back on my feet, and I joined a new company, and I got the top sales rep again. And I said, you know what? Whatever I do in the future, this self-help personal development stuff has to be a part of it. This led me to start training sales reps in other industries. So think real estate agents, food industry, banking sales agents, you name it. And after I started training these reps, they would all say, how do you become a medical sales rep? So I was thinking, okay, there needs to be a resource that lets people, helps people become medical sales reps coming from any industry.
Mm.
And this program was born. And years and years later, here we are, and now we've helped hundreds of people get positions, and we have a full blown team and a full blown staff and a full blown program, and that's how I came to where we are today.
Oh, that's great. So I am not very knowledgeable about how many different areas of medical sales there are. I know you mentioned pharmaceutical. what are the different areas of medical sales?
Yeah. So, I would challenge it. I would say it this way, and I'll challenge you to even think of it differently. Any aspect there is to medicine, there's a sales rep behind it. So, medical supplies, think about the ancillary supplies that are used for surgeries. There's a sales rep. Think about the devices that are used for surgeries. There's a sales rep. Think about the drugs that are used for patients. There's a sales rep. Think about the drugs that need to be taken after a surgery. There's a sales rep. From the outfits that are worn by the providers, there's a sales rep. So, medical sales is literally any type of sale that involves selling within the medical sales space. So there's genetic testing, there's diagnostic, there's pharmaceutical, there's medical device, there's surgical, there's capital equipment, there's medical supplies, there's wound care. I mean, the list goes on, and that's how I would say to look at medical sales. It really does encompass anything, any kind of selling within medicine.
There's all sorts of people that are out there trying to get into medical sales, but they don't know where to start. So I thought maybe if there were like particular titles, but that's helpful to know, think about the aspects of the medical process and where would sales fit into that. And you could essentially search that way.
Exactly, because so with Evolve Success, we provide this service to help professionals get these careers, and we also train sales reps to be leaders within their career. And then lastly, we help thought leaders really brand themselves on the social media space, like think LinkedIn, think TikTok and Instagram. So when I hear someone that says I want to get into medical sales, I'm thinking it's a definite yes. Not because they're going to be a rock star in medical device or they're going to be a rock star in pharma, but because medical sales is so vast, there's going to be a fit out there for them if they seriously want to be in medical sales. And it might not be what they initially thought, because most people don't know how vast it is. I mean, most people think it's as simple as medical device or pharma, and the hard answer is it's not. There's like a spectrum of titles and positions you can jump into that are selling, and spaces you can jump into, like I said, all that fit under the medical umbrella.
That's great. So you have Evolve Your Success, and then you have the podcast. What is it you mentioned about how all sorts of people were asking you, how do I get into medical sales? So what was it that made you decide to implement both of those things? Because it sounds like the podcast started a few years later.
Yeah. So I kind of realized that there's a need out there, because people really want to, we all want to lead meaningful lives. And I think for some people, there's an obvious connection where if I'm selling within the medical space, I know I'm having direct impact on patients. And that makes me feel like I'm putting a lot of meaning on what I'm doing with my career. And I'm not saying that any other sales rep doesn't have meaning. I'm just saying this is the common theme that I hear from people. So I kind of said, okay, what's a great way to get the word out, to let people know that, hey, there are so many different positions out there. There are so many different lifestyles out there, and this could be you. And a podcast just seemed obvious, right? Because a podcast, you don't need a lot of capital to start, and you can really just get on the airwaves and share valuable information. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. Now, did I know the podcast would kind of take a life of its own and go as far as it's gone? Absolutely not. But that's just, that makes the whole experience all the more beautiful, because my intention was get the word out to as many people as possible what's out there. And that's exactly what's happening.
I know that there's other things that are out there, like medical sales colleges that have popped up all over the place. So how would you explain how your process is different than a thing like medical sales colleges, which I'm not totally familiar with? I've just known from looking online.
Sure. Now, I'm going to qualify all of this by saying our process, right? There's an entire team behind it, and I'm just another member of the team. But the way that the process is different with our program, and our program is called the Medical Sales Career Builder. It's all about finding the right fit for the individual and then helping them attain a role. From what I understand about the organization you mentioned, they train specifically to medical device, ortho, spine, and trauma, and they're more of a information based model as opposed to helping you actually attain a role. So they're going to teach you the science, the anatomy, what it means to work within a hospital. Where we have stark differences is we're all focused on you getting a position. First, we got to help you find what's the right fit for you. Everybody thinks, oh, well, I heard this and I want to be a medical sales rep. And then we say, okay, let's talk. What type of medical sales rep do you want to be? Well, I want to be in the OR. I want to be where the action is. Okay, let's talk. Do you actually know what this role entails? And some people, when we really get into the nitty gritty, they're like, wait a minute, I didn't know that, right? Or we say, you know what? Based on what you've shared about what you want out of life, have you ever thought about this space within medical sales? And they're like, wow, I had no idea. And they go on to get in that space and they love their career and they go on to lead a successful career. So we're all about matching the person to the right medical sales industry. That's number one. And then number two, we want you to get a role. I think the science and the anatomy and what it means to work in a hospital and things like that are great, but the companies can teach you that. You can learn that by just spending a lot of time on the internet. But understanding how to communicate your value to a hiring manager, understanding what actually the type of discussion you need to have with the sales rep so that you can walk into an interview confidently and know why you belong there and why you'd be an asset to that company. Those are things that, a lot of people need training around. They need to learn how to have that kind of confidence. And then just the interview sequence, right? I mean, these medical sales interviews, they're 5 to 7 interviews deep. We had a client once that she had 12 interviews to finally get the position. Another one, 9 interviews. So you're talking to all of these different people and you're somehow needing to separate yourself from everyone else. That's almost a science. I mean, there's a lot that goes into understanding how to do that. And that is solely where our focus is within the medical sales career builder.
That's a great explanation. I know for myself, I do utilization review. And so
Sure.
what started me on this path is that
Yeah.
I let people know that I got a job in utilization review. All of a sudden, I get daily emails asking me to review their resume. And
Right.
I thought what you said is very good, that especially for therapists, my experience is that therapists are very good at doing the task. They're not great at communicating value and
Exactly.
what separates them from what they're able to do and all the competition that's out there. So I can definitely understand what you mean about like training people to know the science of how to communicate, your brand, basically.
Exactly. I love that you said that. Your personal brand. I mean, ultimately, you're allowing people to see your personal brand, and everyone has one. Whether you have one or you know how to tap into it and communicate your value to someone that wants to give you a job is a whole nother thing. But everyone has a personal brand. And another thing I'll mention too in our program is we do everything for you, right? So that coveted resume that everyone thinks is so critically important. It is important, but is it the critical piece that gets you the job? I'll be the first person to say no. It's almost like, you're trying to get to the master bedroom of the mansion, of the gated mansion. The resume is just the keys to open the gate. You still got to get in past the front door, up the stairs, past the other rooms to get to that master bedroom, right? So, we do all of that. So we do the resume. We have a medical sales resume writer that specifically understands how to take any industry and transform their resume into something that fits medical sales. The career portfolio. I would like to bet that therapists do not have a career portfolio. With that being said, therapists have all these highlights and accolades within their career that they're probably not even keeping track of. And that's what a career portfolio serves. And that's something you want to showcase to a hiring manager. So we have tools like that, and all our tools are digital because now, ever since COVID, we were already going towards the digital direction. COVID was the catalyst to the digital age. And now, 85% of interviews are on Zoom. So we have all these digital tools like the resume, like the career portfolio, like a 1-year analysis that we provide our clients so that they can really shine and truly separate themselves from all the other candidates and be that last person standing to receive the offer.
Yeah, that sounds like you have the total package ready for people. So for those that are interested in doing that, how would they go about using the services that you all provide?
Yeah, we try to make it as simple as possible. If you're interested, you go to evolveyoursuccess.com. Again, exactly how it sounds, evolveyoursuccess.com, and you just click on Attain Medical Sales Role. You're going to be prompted to apply. We have a short application where we ask you a few questions about what you want to create. You answer those questions, you submit it, and then you're going to be scheduled to a call with someone on our team. We'll talk to you about what you want and what you're trying to achieve. We'll see if you're a good fit for the program. And if you are, you get enrolled and you start immediately.
And I was reading on the website that it's basically meant to be a 90-day process, but you move through and help someone all the way through until they get the role that they want to get.
Yeah, so it's two components. There's a class component. So there's class every 2 to 3 Wednesdays of every month. And then there's an online course. The class component's kind of like the accountability piece. Medical sales experts come and they train in those courses. They're also instructor led, and they're giving you all the ins and outs of how to get these positions. And they're also putting you on the spot. One thing that we've seen when it comes to getting these positions, and really let me speak even more broadly. When it comes to getting positions, it's a matter of confidence, right? Can you demonstrate enough confidence to give that hiring manager confidence that you can actually do this job and do it well? And of course, you need all these things that we've discussed to do that, but you also got to believe it within yourself. And from what we've seen, the only way to do that is to force you into situations that are very uncomfortable and force you to communicate your value in all those uncomfortable situations. So, we have a class setup where, you come to class, you're going to be put on the spot, you're going to be spilling your beans to a bunch of strangers. It doesn't get any more nerve-wracking than that, but when you come out on the other side, there will not be an interview that you will not be able to just blow out of the water. And we also have mock interviews within our program. So we actually have medical sales hiring managers that, give you a mock interview, real interview, 30 minutes, and then when it's done, it's recorded, you're giving the recording, and they give you feedback on what you did well, what you didn't do well, and that's sprinkled throughout the program. So it's pretty in depth, and we designed it that way so that you can go at your own pace while being guided and held accountable all at the same time. It is designed to take 90 days because the average client gets a position in 90 days. However, rock stars out there that are really hungry, they take all the information, and we've had clients get positions as early as 3 to 4 weeks. And then other people that have, maybe life gets in the way, maybe they have a really demanding career, take as long as 4 to 5 months. So it just depends on you.
So what would you say is the most common mistake or the most common mistakes that people make trying to get into medical sales?
Praying and spraying and whimsically walking into interviews, I think, is the most common mistake. I think especially confident individuals, they say, you know what, I got this, I can get this job. And then they apply to 40 different places with a resume that does not fit the bill and a cover letter that's even worse. And then they hope that a recruiter calls them back. And then they get 1 or 2 recruiters to call them back, and then they respond and they don't hunt that recruiter down, and then they wonder why no one's paying attention to them. Or they actually get the interviews, but because they really have no idea what these interviews entail or how to communicate their value, they can't get past the second or third round, and they're just scratching their heads. That's typically the most common mistakes that we see.
And that honestly, that sounds very similar to people that want to get into utilization review.
Really?
It's this, I have and I did this myself. I actually thought that I had it difficult, not realizing how easy I had it, so to speak.
Sure.
I submitted about 17 applications, and after about a month and a half, I changed my resume, and then I got an interview, and then I got the interviews and I got the job offers. So I thought, oh, I need to help people because I don't want them to experience what I experienced. Come to find out, all of a sudden I get people telling me about how many months that they've been applying and how many applications that they submitted without having any success. And a lot of what you just said, I think, really resonates with utilization review as well.
And you know what complicates what we just discussed? The fact that medical sales, especially after COVID, In my limited opinion, I think it's the most competitive industry, period. Everybody wants to be a medical sales rep today. And because it's so competitive, you just kind of walking into an interview, not knowing really what's going on and hoping for the best, it doesn't even make sense to do. There's there's too many people that are well prepared that you're going up against that you're going to fall flat on unless you're equally prepared and you understand how to equally communicate your value. And I think that's why a program like ours has become so valuable because we understand that. We know that it's ridiculously competitive out there. I've had hiring managers tell me 400 or 500 people for the same role within the first week. And then some of them tell me 200 to 300 people for the same role within the first day. How are you supposed to stand amongst all of those individuals? Or even think about the software. Now this applicant tracking software, it's taking your LinkedIn page, it's taking your resume, it's making a comparison, and it's cutting off 60% of those applications that were submitted before it even reaches human eyes. And you're on the other side getting a rejection letter, clueless as to why it happened. I mean, that's what's happening today. So it's imperative that you do the extra work to make sure you're setting yourself up apart enough.
Are there any pearls of wisdom that you would give to, especially most of the people that watch my YouTube channel are
Oh yeah,
therapists, but therapists, nurses, healthcare practitioners, what pearls of wisdom would you give to them if they don't have sales experience, or at least they don't think that they have sales experience
sure.
to put on their resume?
I'll give them this story. So one of, and I don't know, I don't want to get myself in any hot water. So I'll just say one of the leading med tech companies of the world. They hired one of our recent graduates. And when you hear what kind of graduate she was, you're really going to understand why it really doesn't matter if you have sales experience. So she was a mom. She hadn't worked for 10 years. She hadn't worked for 10 years. She had two kids, and she was divorced, single mom, not worked for 10 years, and she wanted to work for this leading company. She didn't. The only thing she could claim to have was being on the PTA and working with some community boards within the city. And we worked with her for about 3 months, and she ended up working with one of the leading companies as an associate medical sales rep. And today, she is an associate medical sales rep for this company.
Wow.
You know, Her story alone just highlights and showcases it's not about whether you have sales experience or not sales experience, or not medical experience or not medical sales experience. Look, if you have sales experience, will it make it easier? Absolutely. If you have a medical background, will it make it easier? Whether you studied it in college or you had a profession where you were dealing with medicine? Absolutely. But when you can be someone like her who had no medical experience, only had a college degree, had no sales experience, it goes to show that what everyone is really looking for is, can you sell yourself on the value, and can you make me believe that you understand what's happening well enough that me, the hiring manager, am willing to take a chance on you joining my team and rocking out the quarter or the year or whatever we're trying to do. That's really what it boils down to. And if you can effectively do that, then you can do this. And that's why I look at therapists and I know that therapists are masters at communication. To your point, they're not masters at communicating their own value, but they are masters at communication. So, a therapist would be, I think, an extremely effective sales rep in front of a provider and helping that provider see why that therapy or that device or that service is needed for a subset of patients. So let us help you communicate the value, and then once you get the job, just do your thing. And I think, if I was to give a message to all therapists out there, that would be it.
Honestly, I think like you need to plaster that story everywhere on social
Right?
media
Isn't it a
about
beautiful story?
that's
Man.
awesome. I mean, that
Yeah.
gives hope to so many people, that to
Yeah.
know that you can have someone who has been out of work for an extended period of time,
Yeah.
and they are still able to succeed and get a role in, as you said, the most competitive industry that there is right now.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. It really is.
What would you say is the most important step someone needs to take if they are saying, I want to get into medical sales, that they aren't quite sure what avenue to take, what would be your advice for someone who wants to get started?
So you know what you're doing right here, Philip. You are literally asking me to self promote, but because I pretty much train people in confidence, I'm going to confidently self promote. Honestly, the best thing you can do is educate yourself on what the industry has. We have the Medical Sales Podcast, where we literally interview people from all avenues of medical sales in all different spaces, all different therapies, with all different positions. Tune in and learn and learn and learn and learn. That's number one. Number two, if you're a therapist, you're a shoo-in. You don't know it yet, but look into, if you want to look into one of our services, evolvesuccess.com, or find us on LinkedIn, Samuel Adeyinka. Just type that in, Samuel, Adeyinka. You can read my content. You can just follow what we see. You don't even have to engage. Learn, take it as another opportunity to learn. And when you're ready, reach out and let us help you. And then for all those out there that aren't therapists, don't have advanced degrees, if you're someone that does not have a college degree and you want to get into this industry, I'm going to tell you that it's possible, but I'm going to tell you that it's going to be very challenging. If you are thinking about getting a college degree or thinking about, just completing the credits to finish your college degree, I highly, highly urge you to do so. Just get that degree, at least put yourself in school and be able to say in an interview that you're completing the degree. It can literally change your life. I think we are at a time and day and age where having a college degree and getting advanced degrees is kind of like a thing of the past, and there's all this online knowledge and all these young kids making millions on YouTube. But the reality is this: in medical sales, again, because it's so competitive, it's just too easy to weed someone out that doesn't have one. Can you get a medical sales position without a degree? Absolutely. We actually help people do that as well. But again, you're just going to make that, you're going to make it that much harder for you. So if you have the opportunity to put yourself into a program, do it. And again, if you're a therapist and you're thinking about, you've been wanting to get into medical sales, it's been on your mind, I highly urge you to do it, because this space could utilize people like you. You guys have the communication. You understand how to get to the core of an issue. You understand how to help someone else bring out their problems to get to the core of an issue. All the more reason why you should be in this space.
Oh, that's great. I think it sounds like you guys have a lot of great services, and I think anybody interested in medical sales, that is a route to go. I hope you found this interview helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel. If there are any particular non-clinical careers that you would like me to interview people about, please let me know in the comments, and I hope to see you in the next video.